of total collection of the elements. That is nothing but the value of capital N. Small n is the part of our data that we are using for the analysis. तो जो भी कुछ हम डेटा सेट यूज करेंगे उसमें से कुछ सैंपल सेट ऑफ डेटा हम यूज करेंगे. दैट डेटा इज रिप्रेजेंटेड एज अ स्मॉल एन. So from the whole population we can select a sample size, or from a certain record we again select a sample record. That is single dimensional data which consists of only one type of records, like an numeric or character type of data. Now I have to find out the term plus n by 2 plus 1 term divided by 2. So we get a middle plus 1th element as a median value of the data set. So likewise you can find out the median value for even and odd data set. So if you have a large data in the attribute 100 record, 500 record, 1000 record, 1 lakh record, 1 million record, that time the formulas play a crucial role. But when we have only few records like 5 to 10 records, that time you can easily find out the median by looking at the numbers. But we have to operate on the large data set to replace the value which is missing in the data set. Going ahead for the third terminology, that is mode. It is the most number of time that occur value in the data set. So we have to count the total number of occurrences of every element, and those elements have maximum occurrence, which number that number is selected as a mode. So remember these three terms. That three terms are always used when we do the analysis of small data set. When you have a record of 100 or 200 tuples and 3-4 attributes are there, that time this central of tendency is efficiently used. Otherwise we cannot rely on the central tendency. So here we will take the example of mean, median and mode. So I just increase the size of this data. Now I think it is visible to all. So we can easily find out the mean value, median value, mode value. To find out the mean, we have to count the total number of element in the data set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have to sum all these 11 element divided by 11. You will get the answer 60.09. You can write at your end. To find out the median, we have to check the total number of element, whether that is even and odd. According to that, we have to select the formula. So n by 2 plus 1 divided by 2 is the formula for median to find out the odd data set. So we'll get the number 56 as a median value. And for the mode, maximum number of occurrence of the element. So you have to count the occurrence of 13. I think it's occur only once. 35, it's also having occurrence once. 54, I'll find 2 times occur in the data set. So 54 is the mode value for this data set. So likewise, you can find out the central tendency of these 3 different terms. So I think it is clear to everyone that how to find out the central tendency with the help of these 3 formulas. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Anyone is having doubt?
No, sir.
Now moving ahead for the measure of a symmetry. Just so measure of symmetry. So when we have a data, we will take one example to understand the concept of this measure of symmetry. For example, I just take one example. Let's say X is my data set, which consists of some elements. I just write the number in a sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these 5 numbers are there in my data set. So now I have to find out the symmetry of this data set. So when you find out the symmetry of the database, you have to find out mean, median and the mode. 3M you have to find out always when you have to use the measure of symmetry. So once we find out these 3 terms, then we have to draw in terms of graphical representation to be understandable whether it is mean is increasing or mode is increasing or median value is increasing, to check whether we are doing the right replacement of the data, that we can verify through the measure of symmetry. So it is also one of the statistical distribution where we have to check the data is properly been replaced in the respective attribute. So if this particular value is missing and I want to replace it, The one of the important aspect we will discuss with the help of this example, that is the global income distribution with a certain range. So I just read the statement first and then I'll explain this graph. Global income distribution in 2003 is highly rate skewed. The statement is there. You can also find this kind of statement in your new channel. You can find in the various blogs as well. So they are been expecting that you know these technical terms when they are represented this type of technical graphs. Global income distribution in 2003 is highly rate skewed. We can see the mean dollar 3,451 in 2003 is greater than the median value, which is dollar 1,090. It suggests that the global income is not evenly distributed. So it means that our global income distribution is associated with mean value, which is on the one side. So if it is not evenly distributed, what are the impacts of that? So most individual income are less than dollar 2,000 and less number of people with income above dollar 40,000. So the skewness. But it seems in 2035, so lowest value will be at the this point. So only few percentage of people, less than 0.1% people are getting the relationship between the variables. Now I will give one example to understand this first dispersion. उसी दिन का हम डेटा सेट अगर देखेंगे, just a minute. This is my data set which consists of many records. Now the data is visible to all.
Yes, sir.
Huh. This is the historical data that we have collected from open source data set. Now I'm not able to apply the center of tendency on this data because I don't want to place illegal values or incorrect value where the value is missing. So what is my expectation is that instead of replacing the values, can I do certain analysis so that we can take a corrective decision to replace the value? Whatever the discussion we had till this point, we can replace it with the help of central tendency. So what I can do, I can either use mean, median or mode, three terms out of which any particular term I'm going to select, and I will replace the value in this attribute or in the particular column where the value is missing. But if I calculate a mean of this, let's say attribute hemoglobin, I can replace mean value. Suppose I'll get a average value here is, let's say 10.8, supposed to be. If I'll get this 10.8, the same value will be replaced at each and every place. This same value will be replaced for each and every place where the value is missing, 1, 2, 3 and so on. We can replace it like this. So every place or every tuple value is going to be 10.8. So which is an irrelevant data. So what I can do, I can find out the relationship between at least 2 to 3 attributes. That is called as a correlation between the variables. If they are related, then we can replace with that appropriate values. That is also a good choice to fill the missing data. तो सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी आपको समझ गया होगा कि क्यों नहीं करना है, व्हाट द पॉइंट. यस, समझ गया नहीं समझा आपको, why we cannot use the central tendency at each and every attribute.
So please repeat.
So as I said, suppose this is the data set, many missing values are there and I want to replace that value with the help of central tendency. So we have three different terms are there, either mean, median and mode, to replace the value in the respective attribute or in the respective row. So suppose I'll take another example here. Suppose this is the WC count and I see the number of records are missing, like 1, 2. I cannot count the number of records which are missing, but few records are missing and I want to replace that value. If I discard that number of rows, then the data size will be decrease. So I cannot remove the tuples. So I cannot delete these records. I cannot remove this record. I cannot remove this record. If I do that, what will happen? sorry, what will happen? The many number of records will be deleted from the data set where the value is missing for this WC. So if these values has been removed, our data size will be large and we cannot get the correct answer. So we need to replace that value. To replace that value, we have to use a mean median mode. So if I use a mode to replace this value, suppose maximum occurrences of value I'll find. Any value is repeated in the data set 7900 7900. Suppose I'll get this 7900 as a mode value in my data set. I'll replace that value everywhere where the value is missing. तो मैं यहाँ पे replace करूँगा value 7900. So at every point that 7900 will be there. Is incorrect value. There is no value at that point, but I'll replace it with that 7900, which is an inappropriate method to replace the value. If you don't know anything, then you can use the central tendency. But if you know the terms, then central tendency is not a good way to replace the value, because there is a duplication of records as good as incorrectness in the data because of same values has been replaced every missing place. So that's why we cannot apply the central tendency at in every time. So what we can do, we can find the relationship between the 2-3 variables. That is called as a covariance or a variance of the relation. So we have to find out the relationship between the two variables. Is this white cells and the red cells are related to each other? Yes, we know that there is a relationship between these two variables, but I don't know the relationship between this PU and this PUT, these two variables. I don't know whether there is a related, they are related or not. But those variables that are related that I know, I can find out the covariance of that two terms. So we have to find out the relationship between the variables. That also called as a dependent variable and independent variable. This is the independent variable, rest are the independent variable, and these are the dependent variable remaining. So based on that, we have to select now appropriate variable.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, some students are trying to get in.
Just a minute. Fine. So I need to find out the relationship between the variables. So the term introduced is measure of dispersion. The measure of central tendency gives a single value that represents the whole value. So we'll get a single value that we can replace in the each and every place. That is not a good choice. So now we will see that how to apply the measure of dispersion or variability in my data set. Now here onwards, the complexity will increase in terms of mathematics. Some terms are there that you have to remember. These are the formulas. The ready-made functions are there in programming language, but you know that which particular function I need to apply on the data set. Whether I'm applying median, whether I'm applying mode, whether I'm applying mean, whether I'm applying range, variance, covariance, standard deviation, correlation. So these are the different terms are there, and which term I'm going to use to normalize my data set. So here the first measure of dispersion is a range. Now I'm talking about the range. So starting to ending of the data set, and what are the number of element in my data set or the records in my data set, I have to find out the range now. What exactly the range? I have to find out the highest value and the lowest value in my data set. First of all, I need to scan the complete column, and from that we have to first find out the lowest value, minimum value and maximum value. By using describe function, by using summary function, we will get the minimum and maximum value in the programming language, and through that we can find out the range, and then we can replace the value with the help of a range. So the difference between the largest and the smallest value of a data is nothing but a range. Is termed as the range of the distribution. Range does not consider all value of a series. It take only extreme item or the middle item not considered significant. So sometime you can take a sample data, sometime you can take a population. If the data size is too large, you can go with the sample data. If the data size is small, you can directly go with the population. So based on the size of data, you can decide the range function size. Just a minute. So we are going to apply the range for the minimum maximum value. For example, this is an example 13, 33, 45, 67 and 70. Out of which we have to find out the maximum value. Maximum value is 70. And as good as we have to find out the minimum value. So minimum value is 30. This set of elements are organized in ascending order. They are not randomly organized. So here we will get the first term as a minimum and the last term is maximum. But in our data set, it will not be the case for each and every data set. It will be a randomized data. So from that data, we have to first find out the minimum value, then we have to find out the maximum value, and then to find out the range, we have to subtract it. So large value is 70 minus minimum value is 30, and now we can replace with the range value. So now we'll get a different value, that is a range. Will the 57 is a part of data set? No, it is not a part of data set. So I am replacing with other values. You can see now the difference between central tendency and measure of dispersion. Center of tendency will just use the simple mathematical terms that can be replaced the value. That value may exist in your data set. But here onwards, measure of dispersion, it may possible or may not possible that value will be exist. And sometimes it may possibility values exist, but out of 10, say 1 to 8 times the value will not be the same, which is available in the data set. So now I get the value range is 57. So you understand that how to find out the value of range. समझ गया सबको रेंज कैसे फाइंड आउट करना है? यस और नो?
यस सर।
तो इस एग्जांपल का कोई बताएगा मुझे क्या आएगा आंसर रेंज का? ट्राई योर एंड जो एग्जांपल हमने यहाँ पे लिया था. हाँ, जस्ट ट्राई टू फाइंड आउट रेंज ऑफ दिस डेटा सेट. कौन बताएगा इसका आंसर? ट्राई टू फाइंड इट योरसेल्फ. 13 is the lowest value. Find out the largest value, which is 96. It is also completely organized in ascending order.
$83.
Okay, other students? Everyone is getting same value?
Yes sir.
Okay. So I hope it is very much clear to all that how to find out the range of this any given data set. Is it?
Yes.
So I think range is clear for all. Now variance. Variance is also calculated to find out the relationship between the variables. Now we'll get a different value in the variance. Variance measure how far is the sum of square distance from each point to the mean. So we have to find out now the distance from the mean. For example, I want to find out the variance. Suppose I take example here, simple x. To understand this variance, I write it only in a sequence of 1 to 5, and this is my data set, which consists of only one attribute x, and the values are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no column, only one row in my data set, and I want to find out the variance. So before going to find out the variance, I can first If I am not aware of the center tendency, I can do that. Then I can find out range, and then we'll come to the variance. Now the meaning of variance to find out the distance, between these two terms. These are numeric value we can easily find out. But if these values are like this, 9700 and 4300, I want to find out the distance between these two terms, distance between this next two terms, distance between these two terms, distance between next two terms, and distance between every term associated in the database or the data set. I want to find out the distance in the variance respective of all the values, unique values. So the formula is there to find out the variance. So variance measure how far the sum of square distance from each point to the mean, that is the dispersion around the mean. So now we'll not get an exact mean value, but we'll get nearest value to the mean. Now the two different formulas are there. This is the formula finding the variance of total population, and this is the formula to find out the variance of sample. So both formulas are not required in each and every case. So when we are using a complete population data set, we can use the variance formula, first one. And when we use the only sample data set and to find out the variance, then we can go for the second formula. I'll elaborate the formula afterwards. What is the meaning of x, what is the meaning of mu, what is the meaning of rho, what is the meaning of n. That we'll see now in the further discussion how to use that terms. But see, these two formulas are important for the variance. Summation of xi minus mu brackets divided by n is for the population. And if you see for the sample, summation xi minus x bar square divided by n minus 1 for the samples. So xi is the number of term I'm going to consider from the whole population. Suppose these are the 5 terms are there. So each term is represented as a xi. X of 0, x of 1, x of 2, x of 3, x of 4, x of 5. N, as I said, the population size, total number of population. Now only mu and x bar is remain. We'll see in the next slide what is the value of mu that we consider to calculate the variance, and what is the value of x bar that we'll consider for a sample. So before that, I'll just draw one rectangle where the records are there, which these are the elements. These number of records are there, and I want to find out the variance. We don't have this numerical type of data, we have this kind of data. Each this particular circle consists of again bunch of data. अगर मैं इसको थोड़ा सा elaborate करूँगा like this, so it consists of information 1, 2, 3 and 4. Just enlarge this one circle which hold this information, and for this complete population I want to find out the variance value. I'm not going to use the center of tendency, I'm not going to use a range, I'm going to use the variance to find out for this data. Okay, यही से हम करेंगे उसको complete. Now for this data set, can anyone tell me first what is the value of n is nothing but the total number of circles. हाँ, अगर मैं इसको एक randomly लिख देता हूँ 20, हाँ, अगर होंगे तो भी ठीक है, अगर नहीं होगा तो try to assume it that is 20. So value of n is 20. 20 number of record are there in this data set, and now I want to find out the variance. First of all, can we find out the mean value for this given data? कर सकते हैं क्या हम mean value find out? Can we find out the mean value for this given data? Yes, anyone?
सर तो न्यूमेरिकल असेल तर होईलच.
We can count it, total number of element. We can add these numbers, but we don't know what exactly the information inside it. So if you don't know what exactly information inside, then it is very difficult for us to find out the value. Yes, agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So it means that we require the numerical type of data. Now you can easily understand that why I'm talking about the numerical kind of information. Okay, so moving ahead, that now we are using these two terms. What is this x bar? What is this population? Only that is remain. Everyone is understanding what is this summation of xi in terms of this or in terms of this. ये दोनों में आपको मैं एक्सप्लेन करूंगा. ये आपको शायद से पहले टर्म में नहीं समझेगा, तो इस टर्म में पहले हम डिस्कस करेंगे, फिर हम जाएंगे सर्कल के टर्म में, बिकॉज एवरी टाइम दिस इंफॉर्मेशन इज नॉट अवेलेबल. तो पहले एक छोटा एग्जांपल लेते हैं, फिर यहाँ पे जाएंगे. ये बड़ा एग्जांपल. हाँ, सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल व्हाट एग्जैक्टली द xi. xi is the only one observation. I will increase. So x0, this is x1, this is x2. This I means a single observation. xi is only one record in the data set or one observation in the data set. So every this circle term will be treated as a xi, x0, x1, x2, x3 till the x20. So hope it's understandable for everyone that summation of xi, summation of xi. Now talking about this n is represented as a total number of records. यहाँ पे कितने 5. So this small n is represented by the total number of record. Total number of record, total number of observation, total number of elements, total number of atoms in the data set. So I think xi and n is clear. Now talking about x bar and mu. The x bar is calculated as the mean value for all observation. X bar is mean value for all observation. So it means that we have to find out the mean value of this all observation. Mean value for this 5 observation. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 divided by 5 will get the mean value for this. उसका square करेंगे. So what we are doing exactly here, xi means एक simple term में 1 is going to be subtract from the mean value. पहले sample का बात करेंगे, फिर हम population में जाएंगे, reverse case में. So this S square is called as sample variance. Pro bar is called as population variance. ये term xi, that is the 0, तो ये मेरा 1 हो गया, minus x bar square. What is the mean value for this observation? 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 15 by 25. Sorry, 15 by 5. 15 by 5 is a 3. So 1 minus 3 bracket square divided by n minus 1. N is the total number of samples minus 1. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So here we'll get minus 2 square is 4 divided by 4. What is the value we are getting? 1. Make sure that your variance value should lies between 0 to plus 1 to minus 1. Either it will be increased to plus 1, either it decrease to minus 1. It should not be any value other than this 3 value. Either मुझे यहाँ पे 1 मिल सकता है या फिर 0.8 मिल सकता है, 0.6 मिल सकता है. The value which is lies between 0 to plus 1 or the value which is lies between 0 to minus 1, minus 2.8, sorry, minus 0.8, minus 0.2, that can be considered. But it should be lies within that range. अगर वो रेंज से ज़्यादा है तो फिर वो variance incorrect है. We cannot substitute that value in the variance. So hope everyone understand that variance for sample with this simple example only. We'll take one complex example to understand the sample variance. ये समझ गया सबको?
Yes, sir.
So in the next session, we'll see the example of population with the simple example, and then we'll take one complex example to calculate the variance of sample and population. Okay. So I think it is clear to everyone. So let's conclude this session with the attendance. Before conclude this session, from tomorrow onwards, from 2 to 4, we'll start the database management system, interview preparation questions for NFTQ. And one more thing that I want to clear with you, on the 16th of November itself, we have started the registration of NFTQ. I give the clear guidelines that how to register for the same. We'll conduct one session in the month of December, and I also explain how to book your slot, how to do the registration, what are the problems you face at the time of registration. That also we discuss. But students were not serious at that time. Few students are responding right now. When we have started the session, that time also they are not responded whether they are facing any problem to book the slot, whether they are facing the problem for registration. The day before yesterday, they message me, they call me that they are not able to book their slots. So at this moment, we cannot do anything. As a central TNP head has sent a message to the Infosys HR, but they said that the booking slot is mandatory for every candidate, with the clear guidelines from them. And why it is not operating at your end, now it is an issue. We'll try to resolve it, but make sure that when we convey to you anything, do it on priority if you are serious about that activity. Those students are facing the problem, they have to wait now. Try it at your end in a day, 1 or 2 times आप करके देखो हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा तो आप wait करो. We'll try to find out the solution for the same. But it won't be possible. उस टाइम पे मैंने वैसे कहा था, you people are putting the question mark after sending the message. We're not able to answer these questions within a minute or 2 minutes. It will take a time. Fine. Give your attendance. Round 1,
Present, sir.
2,
Present, sir.
3,
Present, sir.
5,
Present, sir.
6,
Present, sir.
7, 8, 9, 1,
Present, sir.
2,
Present, sir.
3, 4, 5,
Present, sir.
6,
Present, sir.
7,
Present, sir.
8, 9, 70, 1, 2, 3,
Present, sir.
4,
71 present.
Present, sir. 74 also.
Sir, roll number 60 is present.